I'm on mute. That is a brilliant start to the day. In case you didn't hear that, welcome to Empathy Day Live. I'm Rashmi Sirdeshpande, author of We've Got This, Empathy Lab's Empathy Handbook, illustrated by Juliana Aigner. I'm going to be your host for today. Things will get better. Don't worry. This is it. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen to start us off. We're going to be fine now. We've got some fantastic authors and poets here for you today. And here they are. We've got Matt Goodfellow, Candy Gourlay, and Stephen Camden. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
We're missing Matt. Here he is. Hi, everybody. Oh.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi. So I broke the ice for you by making that massive mistake at the beginning. So everything's going to be fine now. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Yeah, exactly. Make me feel better. Brilliant. It's lovely to have you here. Now, it is Empathy Day, so let's begin by doing a little refresher of what empathy actually means. Empathy is the ability to experience and understand other people's feelings and points of view. So that is what we're going to be doing today. We are inviting everybody to take part in Mission Empathy, which is a series of empathy boosting activities. Our lovely authors today are going to be modeling some of those for you, and we're asking you to get involved. So please do get thinking. Start sharing your book recommendations, empathy boosting books, any empathy resolutions you've been coming up with in the comments if you're watching this on live stream, or on social media at Empathy Lab UK is the name to tag, and use the hashtag Empathy Day. We'd love to see what you come up with. Okay, so let's get into it. I'm going to hand over to Stephen Camden, who is going to introduce our first activity, which is the listening chain.
Hello. I'm going to listen to Matt. Yeah, listening is important, to hear other people's point of view, but also to kind of put yourself in other people's shoes. And I think we spend a lot of time waiting for our time to speak, and there's something about actually trying to tune in to what somebody is saying, to hear where they're coming from. It's just a valuable skill, right? So we're going to model it now. Matt's going to tell me about his book. Right, Matt, you ready? You look ready.
I think so,
right,
man, yeah.
Okay, good. Matt's going to tell me about his book. I'm going to listen. I'm going to use my good ear, and then I'm going to relay back to you a little bit about what I've taken from what you said, please. So take it away, Matt.
Okay, so I'm talking about a book called The Final Year. Mm-hmm. And The Final Year, Stephen, tells the story of Nathan Wilder. He is the eldest of three brothers. He is moving from year 5 into year 6. And we follow Nate's journey as he progresses through year 6. Now, I was a year 6 teacher for a long time. Okay. And year 6 is it's quite a funny year, really. You know, there's lots of stresses and strains on everybody involved in it. And Nate's lucky that he has a teacher that sort of recognizes that he's got something to say about his world. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And Nate is able to express himself with words. Mr. Joshua encourages that. And he's reading them Skellig by David Almond. Yeah. And Nate begins to recognize certain things within the story. Life gets really, really difficult for Nate. And he learns the fact that life is difficult at times. And that friendship, family, love, and expressions can move you towards that. So that's generally what the book's about.
Okay. Sounds all right to me. Right? Like, so year 6, Nate, the oldest. That's interesting to me because I like a lot of my stories are kind of characters are kind of youngest ones. So the oldest going through things outside of school and via this teacher and via the experience of reading something in class switches something on in him to express and I guess kind of help him get through stuff or help him kind of process things as they're happening. That's what landed with me. Did that feel like it's
yeah. And I think it's that processing of stuff, that idea that I think we as writers did the same thing, that you can write about your own experiences stuff. It doesn't change it.
Yeah.
It gives you a way of dealing with it, you know?
Yeah, like you're not just carrying it the whole time yourself.
Yeah, that was good listening, that, Stephen. I'm impressed.
Well, right, cheers. Thanks very much. It was my good ear, and I'm feeling really proud of myself. So, okay, so now we're gonna switch it over, basically, right? So I've listened to you. So, Candy, would you mind listening to me? See if I could.
Oh, am I listening to you? Okay. Well, so because the order was, it's okay.
Oh, right, sorry. Okay, right. Yes. Matt. Okay, right, Matt. That's much better. You're right, Candy. Sorry, apologies. Matt, will you listen to Candy?
Yeah, go for it, Candy.
I'll get out the way and let you I'll shut up, I promise.
Thanks, Stephen. So my book is called Wild Song. And Wild Song, the hero of Wild Song is a girl. She's 16. Her name is Luki. And it's set in 1904. It's kind of a weird bit of true history. In the Philippines, where I come from, in 1904, there were these tribal people called the Bontoc. And Luki is a Bontoc person. She's never been abroad. She's never been in a ship. She's never traveled. And she's kind of like, she's 16 and she lives in this very conservative village where women are expected to get married once they get to a certain age, but she's got ideas of her own. She wants to be a hunter. She wants to do exciting things, and she finds being a wife like the most boring thing. And so when she's invited to go to America, she goes, and she goes with this group to 1904 to St. Louis, Missouri, where there is a big world fair. And she's excited, she's hopeful, she's a bit scared because she's never traveled before. And then when she gets there, people look at her like she's this freak, and she realizes that the fair was not about inviting her to a party, that she was the show. And so she's very sad, and it makes her look back at her life in the village and wonder whether she could live there in a different way.
Okay, so that sounds cool. What I will say is I'm a notoriously bad listener. Everybody would say that. So in order to, I've been making notes as we go through it. So Candy, I'm gonna let me get what I told you. So it's Luki is the main character.
That's right.
She's 16 and she's in a little conservative village in the Philippines where basically her job is to get married and settle down. She doesn't want that. She gets invited to this exciting thing in America where she thinks she's going to go and see the world. But actually, when she gets there, it turns out that people are just looking at her as if she's some sort of freak. That makes her really sad and begins to make her reflect on life in her village and whether she can change the way she lives in her village to make it better for her. Is that about?
Yeah, Matt, you're a great listener. It's not true what you think.
You sold yourself short.
Listening.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to listen to you now.
All right, are you ready? Okay, right. Okay, I'm really. I can't live up to that, right? Okay, I'm right. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
My story is called Stand Up Ferren Burke, and it is about a boy called Ferren Burke, and it follows him from year 7 all the way through to year 11. And what was exciting to me about this kind of story was watching how somebody changes and tries to figure out where they fit over 5 years, because most of my stories are usually set over a shorter period of time. I wanted to do something much longer. And so we follow him. He is a younger brother. He's not the old, he's a younger brother who has an older brother who's a bit of a star in lots of departments and has a lot to kind of live up to, and it's about us kind of staying with him as he tries to figure out where he fits, what he might be good at, what he might love doing, and makes a lot of mistakes along the way. I'll leave it there.
It sounds fantastic. It sounds really great. I had an older sister who was a star, and I completely identify. And I love the idea that you're following a journey. This person's Ferren, which is an odd name, Ferren's journey from year 7 to 11. That's like a real journey of change, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I can imagine all the ups and downs, and those were terrible years. I have to say, for me, those were really terrible years. So I'm expecting a book with a lot of, I can imagine it will be very emotional.
Yes, for sure.
Is this autobiographical?
This one is probably the most autobiographical of anything that I've kind of, you put we're in all of our things, right? I guess, but this one was genuinely. It started with almost that intention. I was thinking a lot about how much of you is still there in year 11 that was there in year 7, and how much has kind of gone all over the place. So, yes, lovely to hear. It sounds interesting. I think we're amazing listeners. I mean, I don't want to blow our own trumpet.
Do it. I think you're amazing listeners. It was so lovely watching all of you share stuff about your books, which are brilliant, of course, but also seeing you listen to each other and really kind of take that care to show that you're interested in what the other person has to say. It's not all about you. You're open, you want to learn something new, and then reflecting stuff back, because listening is so key to empathy. And Matt, I'm so glad you raised about how the fact that listening isn't always easy for all of us. I have to really pay extra attention to listen and keep kind of remembering to come back to that. Maybe as an autistic ADHDer as well, I struggle with that. So I really appreciate you kind of saying that it's not always easy for everyone. And I think viewers will really appreciate that too. So thank you. Okay, all 3 of your fantastic books are going to be joining our Empathy Bookshelf. That is a collection of empathy boosting books that we're putting together for Empathy Day. And now I'd love to hear what recommendations you have for books we can add, books by other people. You've got some ready with you, haven't you? So first, Matt, I'd like to ask you to share your recommendation, please.
Yeah, so the book I'm going to recommend is Skellig by David Almond, which is, obviously a classic book. I'm recommending this because the teacher in my book is reading Skellig, but also when I became a primary school teacher a long time ago now, I didn't know anything about kids' books because I was supposed to be a rock star. And I became a teacher and didn't really know anything about anything. I didn't even know who Michael Rosen was. And I read 2 books. I read Skellig and I read The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. And I was reading them through a year 5 class, and I realized that writing for young people could be as nuanced and as textured and as important as writing for adults. And David Almond writes about place so beautifully. He's from the Northeast, and Alan Garner writes similarly about place. And I was like, you know what I mean? That's mint.
So is it my turn? Okay, it's my turn now. My book is called Walk Two Moons. You know how the people you love the most, I mean, our listeners are kind of older than the KS3, so you've had lots of life experience. People we love the most sometimes can be the ones who hurt you the most. I've had that experience with my mom, who was a funny, wonderful, inspirational person, but she had mental health issues that also gave me the worst days in my life. And the book that I'd like to recommend is called Walk Two Moons. It's about mothers, and the title means that we may all walk under the same moon, but each and every one of us sees that moon in a different way. And Walk Two Moons is the story of Sal. Her mother becomes very sad, and then she leaves the family, and while she's away, she dies in an accident. And Sal is angry at her mom for leaving and angry at her mom for dying. And I just want to read very, very quickly a little bit from the book, which I thought captures everything we're trying to do here. Sal is playing a game with her grandpa where they take turns pretending they are walking in someone else's moccasins. So here's the grandpa saying, if I was walking in PB's moccasins, I would be jealous of a new brother dropping out of the sky. And Sal says, if I was in Graham's moccasins right this minute, I would want to cool my feet in that river over there. And then Grandpa says, if I was walking in Ben's moccasins, I would miss Salamanca Hiddle. On and on we go. We walk in everybody's moccasins. And one day I realized that our whole trip had been a gift from Graham and Gramps. So Graham and Gramps take her on a trip following the journey her mom takes before she dies. They were giving me a chance to walk in my mother's moccasins, to see what she had seen and feel what she might have felt on her last trip.
Oh, thanks. Stepping into people's shoes. Right, sorry, I've got to stay on course. Sorry, we're on a time frame. Sorry, I was going to get excited about that now. Right, hi. My recommendation for the shelf is Boy in the Tower by Polly Ho Yen, and I just love this book. I read this book quite early on in my kind of writing journey, and it's about a boy who lives with his mom in a tower block, and his mom's not very well, and he has to kind of care for her, and it's about staying with him as he's kind of caring for that role as a young carer, but not just while we're zooming in on that, the world outside is completely being overrun. So these plants are taking over the city, and people are dying, and buildings are kind of crumbling. So from up in his tower, he's watching the world kind of disintegrate while he's trying to keep his own little flat together. And just being with him, the reason I love it is because I genuinely feel like I'm in the room with him, and time kind of passes, and it's about him just, I guess, his perspective changing rather than it being about massive amounts of action. There's this huge thing happening, but it feels like we've zoomed right in on a small situation about caring, the reversal from mother caring for child to child having to care for parent. And that just really resonated with me. So I absolutely love it. And I've given it about 60 times as a gift.
Beautiful.
Wow.
By magic, Rashmi comes back. You're so good at that.
Exactly, so good. Wow, how does it happen? How does it even work? Who knows? So such beautiful book recommendations there. They are all going to go on our Empathy bookshelf. And I've got one to add to that. Mine is this, If My Words Had Wings by Danielle Joando. I think this book, it is about how unfair the justice system can be with young people. It is about prison and poetry And it's also about new beginnings and the choices we make and how powerful that can be, and how we can design our own paths in life. And I just think that it's so hopeful, it's so uplifting, it's so raw. And it's just like you said, Stephen, you really feel things, it's like you're right there. And it's amazing how books can do that. All of the books that you've been talking about and your own just transport readers. So this is why we're building our empathy bookshelf. And speaking of feelings and transporting readers, we're going to move neatly into our next activity, which is the emotions map. Is that smooth? Let's try and be smooth there. And for this, I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to introduce his emotions map. Thank you, Matt.
All right, thanks, Rashmi. I have shared some words that will come up at some point, which is, there we go, about this is my emotions across the course of a writing day. Now, I'm quite lazy, so I have to be forced to write, and these are the various emotions that I can go to, because it's a funny job being a writer. You sit alone and you put stuff out into the world. Some people like it, some people don't like it. So there's anxieties when you're feeling anxious. That can make me feel a little bit tired, exhausted. And then I've got energized, calm and confident. And they're in no particular order. These are just the feelings that I feel across the course of a day's writing. So if I've done something well and I'm happy with, then I'm feeling energized and confident by it. But it's a funny life. It's a funny, funny life. So those are that's my map. So thank you, Paul, for putting that, for doing that together. I think Candy, you're going to share yours with us now, I think.
Yeah, I was going to talk about how, I wanted to talk about how it was like to write a book. So these are my emotions as the project goes on. It's not just a day of emotions. It's as I do the book. It's kind of not in the right order. So the first feeling that I get, and that these are my cartoons of myself. The first feeling I get when I get this idea, and there's a picture of me that says excitement with a little big light bulb on it. I get really excited, and I've got this great idea. I'm going to write this book. It's going to make me famous. It's going to be published everywhere. And then I start writing the actual book, and I am disappointed because suddenly I realize there's a lot of research to do. There's a lot of work. And for my last book, Wild Song, when I started writing it 15 years ago, I suddenly realized I didn't know anything about the era I was writing about, and that I needed to actually do so much research. It would take years to finally get that book written. And then I start writing. I do the research, I do all the work, and the research points me to a history that I had no idea about. And I'm so sad discovering about this history. And I'm beginning to be sorry that I started writing the book, because it's just taking so much time, and I still feel inadequate and not good enough to write the book. And then something always happens near the end of the book where I've gone halfway through, years have passed. I have no choice but to finish this book, and I get angry that I've got to do this, and why can't I be writing a shorter book, or why can't I be writing a graphic novel, which would be much more fun? All these words, it's so hard to do. And then when I get near the end, and that's usually like years in, I suddenly realize, hey, I'm going to finish the book. It's going to happen. It's going to get published. And I feel so much joy and relief. That's my emotional map.
Yeah, well, I completely identify with that. I don't know about you, but that was like someone was crawled inside my head and like, yeah, okay. I'll do mine, right? Okay, so mine was, I realized that my first book was published 10 years ago this year. And so I thought about my journey of the last 10 years or to where I am now with being a published author. So the first one I chose, the word I wrote down was unaware. And that was, just, I never met a writer. Being a writer wasn't even on the cards in terms of my own kind of journey or kind of plans. I grew up around people who talk stories lots. And I'd gone through kind of writing stories and performing stories and sharing stories, but an actual book, the neatness and the dedication required for that just seemed like something far away. And I just wasn't even in the realms of possibility. And someone suggested it to me, and I tried and had an attempt. And as I was writing that first book, and I would go to events and learn more about the industry, I got massively intimidated by the fact that everyone seemed to have a plan. Everyone seemed to know loads about publishing. Everyone seemed to kind of have like an awareness of what makes things sell. I didn't have a clue, and I felt completely like out of my depth and kind of impostery. And then what I realized was at one point that somebody said something to me, a friend of mine who writes, she just said, well, nobody knows you better than you. And I kind of went, ooh, does that mean that whatever I've got to say, my story is possible? And I kind of started to feel quite curious about what that actually meant and what that would look like. Having never written a book or thought about it, what would a story of mine in book form look like? So I started getting curious about that. And then I dove in and got to a point which I think is kind of the writing part, which kind of Candy was speaking to there, is a sense of while you're in it, you can feel completely lost, like the rest of the world kind of like melts away, which can feel great when you're in the right mood and it's going well. But when you're not, it can feel like you're just drifting, walking through the woods, completely not having a clue where you're going. And you're like, right, am I writing this? Who am I writing this for? Is there anyone out there like me? Is anyone going to connect with this? I don't know. You feel lost. And then at some point, something kind of clicks that on what was said to me before about knowing me better than me, meaning that you don't know whether who people are going to connect with it or who's going to see it. But the excitement is that somebody might. So it's like, oh, I can do it my way and there's a chance. Who knows? And that uncertainty, that kind of potential became exciting. And so where I am now is I'm trying to do my own, make sure that I write for myself and with things that excite me, hoping that connection happens. So that's my map, as it were.
Wow, thank you for that, all of you. That was fascinating, truly. So interesting to see that kind of roller coaster of emotions that we all go through, and I'm sure that's deeply relatable for anyone who's watching. It just is like that. They're all kind of part of life. So thank you so much for sharing those insights. Really moving and very thoughtful. To everyone who's watching, we would love to see what kinds of emotions you've been feeling. So schools, send through at least 3 words if you can, either in the comments or on social media, tagging Empathy Lab UK and using hashtag Empathy Day. What we're trying to do is build a word cloud. If you haven't seen one of those, it basically takes in lots and lots of words, feeds it into this system that then creates a cloud of words. And the words that we hear a lot of will be big in that word cloud, and the words we don't hear so often will be a little bit smaller. So we kind of can use it to get the mood, how people are feeling, and capture that. So it'd be really interesting to see. So schools, please do share at least 3 words, but you can share more. We're not going to turn away your emotions. So, share as many as you'd like. And also, do keep sending in those recommendations of empathy boosting books so that we can add them to our empathy bookshelf. Now, we're going to move over to our final activity of the session, and that is empathy resolutions. But schools, if you're watching, please do send your empathy resolutions that you've been coming up with in using the comments or again on social media, because we might be able to catch some and share them with you live in just a little bit. Okay, so for the empathy resolution activity, which is all about making empathy resolutions are a promise to use empathy in our lives. We know what empathy is, we know it matters, we know the difference it can make, but how do we turn it into action? We can do that through an empathy resolution. So for this, I'm going to hand over to Candy.
Well, empathy resolution is like the hardest bit. I found it really hard to think of something, and everything seemed to kind of it was really, really hard. And then I thought, well, one of the things my husband always says whenever we have a problem is, let's hurry slowly. And I thought that would be a really good empathy resolution, because everybody seems to be in such a rush. So you see something on social media, you must immediately put a like or a dislike or make a comment or say something. You perform all of your emotions. If somebody says something that you object to, you say something right away. And we've all got to slow down, because we've got to listen. We practiced listening earlier. We've got to listen. Take stock, listen to your feelings. Why are you reacting in that way? Why do you need to? Sometimes you're just doing it because everyone else is doing it. And it's really worthwhile to slow everything down so that we can check in with our true feelings and the feelings of the person that you're responding to, because that's how feelings are hurt. When people are in such a rush, they don't look at the big picture. So hurry slowly. Who have we got next? I think Matt. Matt, you want to share your empathy resolution?
Yeah, sure. I am quite a short-tempered man, and things wind me up quite easily. And
You look like a pussycat.
Well,
so friendly.
don't let appearances get. I get wound up quite easily. But it's like silly little things like queuing. I don't like queues and stuff, and sometimes I wind myself up like the whole world's getting in my way on purpose. And I think one of the things I need to try to do is remember that like other people are living their lives as well. Do you know what I mean? And that if I'm having a bad day, other people can also be having a bad day, and it's to try to remember to come out of here a little bit and remember that, you know, and to just to try to be a little bit more patient, I suppose, with the world around me, because I'm not great at that.
Okay, now we've got Steve.
Hello. Okay, so mine is not too dissimilar. It's about perspectives, I guess. I think you reach a point. I've reached a point where I feel like I kind of trust my own opinions on stuff, and I trust my own kind of perspectives, and I kind of believe myself the way I'm kind of looking at the world. But I think mine was to remember that different brains can see the same thing in different ways, because just because I feel like I've landed on something that feels right to me and a perspective that feels like it makes sense and I believe it, doesn't mean that's the only perspective. And I think the more you kind of limit your perspective to other people's possible kind of lens on the world, the less engaged and less connected you could become, because you put yourself above people or other people beneath you, and before you know it, you're doing the exact opposite of what you intend to do, which is kind of get close to people and feel more connected. So I'm reminding myself to remember to see that there are other perspectives other than mine.
Oh, I love all of those. And I love how they're all about kind of remembering to do something, because it's almost like this is what the empathy resolution is designed to do. It's not that we're perfect at these things, right? It's some little thing that you just keep coming back to, and you'll forget, and we'll make mistakes, and then we keep coming back to it. My one that I want to keep coming back to, my empathy resolution, is to be really gentle with others, because you never really know what other people are going through. And I guess it's similar to what we've all been talking about, perspectives and slowing down to really think about, take in what's happening with someone else, or to kind of realize that they might also be having a bad day. It's all of that, and it's just coming back to it again and again. So thank you for sharing your resolutions. We had some fantastic ones come in from schools earlier today as well. I wonder if we have any of those to share here. Talking to the Empathy Lab team here. Yeah, so we've got this one. My empathy resolution is to listen to the thoughts and opinions of the people who don't get recognized as much. It's a really interesting one from Phoebe there.
Mm-hmm.
Phoebe. My empathy resolution is to help. Oh, it's going too fast for me. My empathy resolution, I like this one because I have a brother, is to stop ignoring my brother and listen to him more. That's from Olive, and Olive's also from Morelands Primary Academy.
Can we do some follow up on that? Can we find out if that actually happens? Because I think we need a research project, because I'm feeling for the brother.
Are you feeling for the brother? You're rooting for the brother. Yeah. We all. I mean, these empathy resolutions are just sometimes just a little thing, isn't it? That just shifts so much. That's wonderful. Thank you so much to everyone that's been sending those resolutions in. Keep them coming. Remember to send in your emotions. We can build that fantastic word cloud. What else? Emotions maps. If you do one, our authors today have made some fantastic maps. If you have time to make an emotions map, do share them with us, because it's inspiration for everyone else. We love to see it. I think that's everything from us. Keep doing your mission empathy activities. It's Empathy Day today, but really we want to make every single day an empathy day. It is cheesy, but it is true. So thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you to Matt, Candy, and Steve. You've been fantastic. Really incredible listening to you. I could listen to you all day, and all our authors from today. To everyone who's watching, thank you for joining us. And if you are into drawing, then we have got Draw with Rob at 2:15 p.m. You're never too old for a bit of drawing. I am going to mention that to you. Because Rob is going to be drawing a good karma llama. Everyone needs to know how to do that. It's a pretty good life skill. Okay, so enjoy. Happy Empathy Day. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Bye.
Thanks, guys.